All right, ladies and gentlemen, on to our next presentation for the day. I have the honor of introducing Mr. Paul Freeman. He is the Exploration Advisor at SLB. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a round of applause.
That's my mic. Hello? Very small fan club this morning, but thanks for coming along. Okay, so I'm presenting on behalf of Sugandha Tiwari. She put all this work together, certainly the technical stuff, and I'll try and do it justice, but any complicated geophysical questions, I'll take note and we'll get back to you. So I'm going to talk about accelerating value creation, unlocking Africa's oil and gas discoveries, which is all about finding new oil and gas. So just a bit of context, and this is courtesy of Rystad, the plot. Reserve replacement ratio over the last several years has been declining, and currently it's pretty much at the lowest level it's been for about 7 years. So you can see in the chart, back in 2019, about nearly 15 billion barrels, nearly 15 billion barrels. Sorry, I'm not very good at karaoke either. About 15 billion barrels of discovered resource. So far to date, about 4, and the last couple of years averaging around 6.5. So it's kind of falling quite a bit. How are we going to get that moving in the right direction? It's really by de-risking subsurface opportunities and helping E&P companies to explore new terrains. And they're starting to move outside of core areas. In 2025, it's something like 70, depends on whose criteria is used, but around 70 high-impact wells are expected to be drilled. And most of those are in the South Atlantic margin, so both sides of the Atlantic. Very much dominated at the moment by the Orange Basin in Namibia. And an interesting thing from a data provider is some research that was done by Westwood Global, is that in general, discoveries are made on seismic that's around about 2 years old, that kind of time period, from last shot to delivery of seismic, then it's about 2 years when they drill the wells. But no commercial discoveries on data that's older than 6 years. So it's really important to either keep the data fresh, shoot new data, apply new algorithms, and see if you can unlock new potential. And in terms of discovery resource just in Africa, it's around about the 2.5 billion barrels of oil equivalent in the last couple of years. There's an awful lot of high-impact drilling. A lot of it is in emerging or frontier basins, so not the old traditional hunting grounds in the shelf-fill areas. And dominated, as I said, by sort of Southwest Africa, which is the Namibian Orange Basin region. And then Angola's fiscals, yeah, so they've started an increased set of activity in Angola. I think also separating the regulator from the national oil company was a step in the right direction. And then finally, North and East Africa are attracting new interest. We've seen news about MOUs in Libya. We've had bid rounds in Algeria. There's bid rounds coming up in Mozambique, and there was a successful one in 2022, 2023. Still to get final awards, but it's imminent. So another bit of context, and this is a very simple map. I've used it previously. This is NOAA's sediment thickness map of the globe, or at least this is focused on the Atlantic margins. Just taken some simple cutoffs to highlight areas that are potentially mature, early mature, or oil mature, and then you go right up to red colors, which says it's probably fairly gassy, but it's a very gross view. The point of the slide, though, is that there's vast areas that have been underexplored in the deep water areas. The little white line that focused on Angola, Namibia, and South Africa is the 3,500 meter waterline, which is kind of the limit that people are going out to explore at the moment. And inboard of that, there's these vast areas of sedimentary basins which have, to a large extent, not really been explored yet. So the potential in the ultra deep water is significant, but it is also quite complex geology, and there are other risks with potential for source rock maturity being a bit uncertain. Okay, so we have to help the industry unlock the potential in new areas, and this is just one. So the Lower Congo Basin, we're looking at helping to unlock the ultra-deep water region in underexplored post-salt plays, but also completely unexplored subsalt and even pre-salt plays. So if you look at the map on the top right, traditionally all the discoveries have been made in Cretaceous clastics and carbonates. But if you move outboard of that, where the little yellow arrows are, there's very clearly imaged turbidite systems going out into the ultra-deep water in blocks 46, 47, 48, and so on along that margin. It's not just limited to there, it does go all the way down the margin. And on the bottom left, we've taken an AVO plot and overlaid that AVO anomaly, which is down class 3 anomaly bottom left, onto the seismic data, and you can clearly see the potential in that structure. There is actually a fairly convincing oil water contact or flat spot on that anomaly as well. So we're working hard to try and unlock that potential, most of which to date has been in the post-salt, but now we're looking at areas in the subsalt, so you can see the nap moving out, and there's a source rock in the deeper section. There's clearly identified reservoirs, except you can't really see them in the subsalt. And on the right-hand side, very much postulated pre-salt carbonate potential, but that has not really been tested at all yet. So there's still some work to do to try and identify the pre-salt. Excuse me. So here's an example on the Lower Congo Basin. You can see a salt canopy up in the top right. This is legacy data. I mean, on the left-hand side, you can interpret some potential, but on the right-hand side, beneath the salt, very difficult to see anything. So we've taken a lot of effort to build earth models, do iterations using tomographic migration to try and resolve the potential under the salt. And this is an output from this. So this was using our broadband workflows and doing multiple iterations to kind of get a reliable image in the subsalt. The yellow pick, we've just taken an RMS amplitude extraction from that, which is on the bottom left, and you can see there's a fairly large potential closure in that area. So, you know, this is what we're trying to do, is to identify these areas where there's poor imaging and see if our modern processing can unlock the potential. Similar but different. In the Kwanza, we've taken a huge area of about 10 3D surveys, reprocessed them and merged them together. So it's called the Kwanza 1 data set. On the left-hand side, it's just a top salt image, so you can see the complexity that comes with a salt terrain. And on the right-hand side, what we're showing is the way the data is chopped up, or has been chopped up in the past. And what we've done is we've taken that, reprocessed it, and then merged it together. And what happens in that situation is, in the past, between block 37 and block 20, nobody really explored up to the edges because they couldn't rely on the migration of the data. They couldn't actually see the structures in completion because they often went off block for either block 37 or block 20. But by merging all the data together, remigrating it across those joins, you get a much clearer picture, and you can start to see leads and prospects in those areas that were poorly imaged before. And in the post-salt area, actually, we're getting some really clear images as well. You can see in the very top right of reservoir, seal, and source pairings. Moving a bit further south in the Benguela and Namib area. On the top right, there's just some ODP and deep sea drilling project wells. The point of those is that actually some of these wells have been drilled out in the ultra deep water, and they've proven that there's Aptian and Albian source rock in those wells, in particular around Benguela Block 39. So on the left-hand side, some legacy 2007 data. We've been reprocessing that, broadband reprocessing again, improving the signal-to-noise ratio, iterations to improve the Earth model so that we can get a better definition, in particular where there's salt. There is salt in that image. If you're a geophysicist, you can probably identify where the salt is, but where the reservoirs and potential is under that is really quite difficult. So in the reprocessing, we get a much clearer definition of the salt, the edge of the salt, and the terminations of the sediments beneath the salt up against the salt. So, and this would be a classic trapping mechanism that people would look for in the Gulf of America or Mexico, whichever way you want to call it. But some really exciting potential there appearing under the salt nap. And then moving even further outboard into the abyssal plain, we've been looking at the potential out there, and we're actually able now to, through reprocessed data, we can identify some Cretaceous channels, basin floor fans, way out in the abyssal plain. This is sort of getting into similar to the Venus type play in Namibia in the Orange Basin. There'll be other challenges here around source maturity and things that would still need to be worked out because some of this is on oceanic crust. So a lot of additional work. But when you zoom in on these areas, and these are fairly big scale lines, you can really start to pick out the channel architecture out there and map them out and map out the potential. So quite exciting stuff. Slightly pixelated because I had to reduce the resolution of the image to get it on the memory stick. And then looking at Namibia's frontier basins, it's not all about the Orange Basin. Well, it is at the moment, but I think there's more potential to be had in the Walvis and the Lüderitz basins, and certainly they're getting a bit more interest. So here in SLB, we got 15,500 line kilometers of 2D data. It gives a good regional framework, so you can start identifying areas you want to focus in on and maybe subsequently get 3D data. But again, reprocess this data. We've got much improved velocity models on these to remove any kind of artificial distortions on the data and give much crisper images. So legacy on the left, on the right, the broadband reprocessing giving some definition of channels that's kind of in the northern Lüderitz part of the basin. And again, looking at a bit maybe further inboard, we can see very clear definition of canyon features and channel bases. You can identify reservoir intervals and actually sealing facies as well. So it is a regional 2D grid, so you're not really going to be able to map out prospects, but it gives you some hints of where you might want to focus activity in the future. It certainly points to the fact that some of these channels terminate very nicely against sealing rocks. And the other added benefit to this reprocessing is we're getting much crisper definition of the structural features. Everybody's sort of focused on looking for big stratigraphic plays, but there is also, we shouldn't forget, lots of structural potential around as well. If I just put some lines on, you get much crisper definition of the faults and the terminations of reservoir intervals against sealing rocks. And in fact, in this case, we also got increased resolution of some mud flow intervals, mass transport complexes, just mini ones, but it's starting to come up very clearly. And then last but not least, on the other side of the continent in Mozambique, again, we're applying some advanced broadband processing, and we're getting much enhanced images from the data there. Much better vertical and lateral resolution, and actually, because we've tidied up the data quite a bit, you can do some proper AVO analysis on it as well. And just recently, we've been working through applying full waveform inversion to get much more robust velocity models, which again helps to improve the stratigraphic continuity and trap definition. And this is a much bigger, regional, and more dense 2D data set that's been reprocessed to improve the imaging and the potential. There was the next bid round was just announced in Accra, so there's another round coming up, and I believe soon the previous round's awards are going to be signed off. They haven't quite done it yet. So lots of potential. Just a bit of an interpretation on there. Very clear fault definition, and these fantastic stacked channel systems as well, coming in off the Zambezi Delta into the deep water. So that's the talk. Key takeaways: we're working on improved subsalt imaging in these complex salt basins. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of earth model building and iterations to get that illumination under the salt, but we are getting the results now. We can see leads that were previously masked by the salt, and there's definitely a lot of potential that has not been tapped in the offshore Angolan deep water frontier basins. In the Kwanza area, the merged data set is really showing additional potential that was overlooked in a basin that has been explored, but it's in between existing surveys. Now that they've been merged and processed together, much clearer potential identified for structural and stratigraphic plays. And then the last bit is really going even more out into the frontier areas, reprocessing legacy data sets with modern techniques to identify in more clarity the potential in turbidite systems or channel systems, but also the basin floor fans in the tertiary and Cretaceous, in the abyssal plains, but also in the nappe areas in the salt basins. So that's it. Lots of exploration potential along the margin, not just in the Orange Basin, all the way through Namibia, Angola, and further up the margin, to be honest, and then across into Mozambique. We're also identifying potential there. I have done a previous presentation on Mozambique. I think there's an increasing acknowledgement that there's an oil play to be had in Mozambique. It's not all about the gas and the Rovuma. So watch that space as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much for that fantastic presentation.